Leading our news bulletin for tonight, the second flight to Niue made its maiden voyage today, arriving just before 2 o'clock as many festival participants welcomed their counterparts for the third Niue Arts and Cultural Festival due to open on Friday. As many of the locals turned up to welcome the new arrivals, many also turned up to witness the arrival of the second flight. The second flight service for the island is confirmed to continue until the end of October this year. The next flight to service the island is due this Friday. A new principal for Niue High School has been appointed to take on the role of interim principal. According to the Niue Public Service Commission, a New Zealand teacher, Mrs. Susan Wells, has been appointed as the interim head of school for the remaining school year. Mrs. Wells has experience with the Niue school system after a brief stint as a teacher at Niue High School. The Niue Public Service Commission said a review will be conducted at the end of 2013 to assess the only candidates who applied for the job. The reasons for the interim principal was to allow the local candidate an opportunity to develop in capacity building and other leadership roles. However, if the development is yet to fulfill, then the interim head of school will continue. The current principal, Mr. James Poihanga, has been tasked in the leadership of the TVET project. As the island's banking system goes through a number of changes, work to install new FPOS machines has started this week. According to Premier Toketalangi, about 20 local businesses will be installing these new FPOS machines. Premier Toketalangi also says that this is a very positive move as FPOS is very important to move forward.
FPOS is very important, it's very similar to EDNs, but FPOS is good because we can use people from overseas as well as our own credit cards and so on here if we want to make purchases in the shops and so on. It's a way of the future. It's been going on in New Zealand for some time. We're just catching up, and I'm very pleased that FPOS are here. Can I also say that FPOS is separate from the Kiwi Bank agency that we've established. The Kiwi Bank agency, I understand the transition process has come at an unfortunate time with the festival and so on, but at the same time it was bound to happen, and I'm pleased that the transition seems to be going reasonably smoothly, and Natalie and her team are doing a very good job, and PSP has also been very, very good and cooperative and so on, so I'm very pleased. I think everybody is now at the stage where we say, well, you know, we've agreed to all this, let's move on and get ourselves organised for this new banking arrangement.
You mentioned that FPOS is separate from the Kiwi Bank. So in terms of charges, what are we looking at paying for, or who will it be going to?
I don't know. To be honest with you, as I said before, I don't know what they charge per transaction, and I can't tell you. That's something that FPOS and the company and so on, including whatever telecom charges and so on, will be included. So you'll have to go and talk to them. But I think in time we will get to know what these charges are. Just as much as I said to you before, I'm not sure what type of interest rates we're looking at for the Kiwi Bank agency to provide.
So how widespread will FPOS be here on the island?
It'll be provided that those companies that have ADSL. I understand that Wi-Fi is not secure. Therefore, the telecom systems will be used, and those companies who have access to that will be able to use that. I understand also there was a look at the possibilities of mobile FPOS machines. I'm not sure whether that is going to go ahead or not.
So will all these FPOS machines be fully operational in time for, I guess, the influx of visitors to the island?
Don't know that. I'm sorry. I hope so, but we'll be advised by our people whether they can. I hope the people on the planes coming in today and tomorrow and on Friday will bring plenty of cash.
With the new banking alternatives, this may take some getting used to. And another banking service that will not be covered with Kiwi Bank is the option of sending telegraphic transfers. The lack of this service has raised some concerns amongst people on the island who will now have to use services offered by other companies. One of those companies or businesses that offer the service is Talk Enterprises, a company that is owned by the Premier, with some concerns about whether this is a conflict of interest. We put the question to the Premier and he responded candidly that the company has done this for some time.
The company's been doing that for some time. I don't see now that it's suddenly everybody's woken up to the fact that it's been operating that line of business for some time. So I don't know why that question has been raised, to be honest. I think it should have been raised, for example, many years ago when it was first started, but to now consider that in fact there is a conflict. Everything that we do here, and if looking at the second service, air services and so on, people will say to me there is a conflict. I have to make a decision on the basis of what's good for the country, not necessarily what's good for whatever companies there are. And I include the company that my family owns. But this company has been operating some time, so I don't understand why people are suddenly woken up to the fact that, hey, the Premier's got a family business which is involved with that.
Whether it be FPAS, telegraphic transfers or money transfers, the hope is that people will be able to continue accessing their funds and that there will be a smooth transition from BSP to the new agency agreement through Kiwibank. Predicting the weather and weather patterns using traditional knowledge was yesterday discussed at a workshop facilitated by Niue Met, Taonga Niue and COSPAC of Australia. Karen Bennett of COSPAC said the idea behind the project to collect traditional data in which to assist countries in determining weather patterns and predictions compared to scientific data.
This is something that we are hoping that working with the Met Service is going to help us work through that. So we actually don't want to collect the information and take it back to Australia. We want it to be kept here, and we'll just help people here to use the data. So what we're trying to do is support the Met Service so that they can do projects to collect traditional knowledge and then use it to add it into the forecasts. So we won't take the knowledge and keep it. We'll work with them so they'll drive the project and we can support them in doing the project, but we'll never take the data back to Australia and use it for our own benefit. It's really going to stay here, and we'll just support the project in whatever way that we can and whatever's going to really help them to try and integrate the data. So we can help them, say, with some scientific expertise. So when you get to the point where you want to put the data together, the traditional and the scientific data together, it's quite a complex, which I have no idea how to do. It's quite a complex algorithms and computer programs and models that you have to develop to be able to integrate that data and produce a forecast.
However, in saying so, Karen said the importance of information must also be protected for those who possess the knowledge to ensure it is correctly recorded and stored, especially information people are wary of sharing.
It's something we're finding in all of our partner countries, that some people are very keen to share their knowledge, other people think it's something private that should be kept just with the owners of that knowledge. But we've expected that and we understand that, and we don't want to take people's knowledge, and we want them to be the owners of it and only share what they feel comfortable sharing. So some people are very comfortable to share it and others are not, but we'll really only take the bits that they're willing to share. So sometimes we've explained it like the tree with a big root system, the tree of knowledge, some people have described it as, and we really only want the leaves, the bits that people are happy to share, the very deep roots that are very deep within the community and sometimes secret. We don't need that knowledge. All we want is just the very superficial knowledge at the very top that people are willing to share.
Director of Taonga Niue, Moira Enetama, in her presentation focused on where values of tradition and knowledge derive from and where and how it should be passed on. Some of the participants questioned the protection of information in copyright laws, the transmission of knowledge, and the proper use of information to ensure the values and traditions remain. Yesterday's workshop was opened by Honourable Premier Taketalangi and was attended by members of Cabinet and Government and different sectors of the community. Government support to the private sector has increased with the announcement of funds available for businesses through the Niue Chamber of Commerce. The fund is open to businesses on the island, majority owned by locals, whether registered or unregistered, and selection will be based on merit. So it is open to any kind of business, according to the Premier.
Any kind of business, as long as they have proven that they have in fact invested their time and money to develop a business, we will consider any proposals provided to us.
Premier Talangi says that the process to assess applications has started with the first lot of applications received.
We've already assessed the first 90. I think we've approved about 60% of those. And we're looking at, and when I say we, that's myself, the Chamber of Commerce have considered the applications and we've approved 60% of those. We're still receiving applicants, and some we have approved in total, some we have only approved some of the things, and so on. It depends on how we see and how the business is assessed. Some businesses we've asked the Elliot to go around and check them again to see whether they have actually made the commitments and so on before reporting back to us at the weekend thing. So they should be making the disbursements as quickly as possible.
The main objective is to drive the private sector developments and boost businesses' ability to deliver goods and services. A public health workshop is being held this week for young people to raise awareness levels about HIV and STIs. Youth are the target group in this particular training, and a survey conducted with young people will be the basis of the content for the promotional materials. A health expert from the Cook Island Ministry of Health has been sourced to facilitate workshops due to her extensive knowledge of working with young people in her community. The main focus of the training is in the areas of behaviour change and also production of IEC materials.
BCC training. So BCC stands for Behavioral Change and Communication. So we have to try and figure out ways to change people's behaviours, to engage in healthier sexual lifestyles, to prevent HIV, because we don't have HIV here in Niue. So we want to maintain that status for as long as possible. And for STI, sexually transmitted infections, we do have cases here in Niue. So what we want to do is try and avoid the spread, avoid increasing the number of STIs on the island. So by means of behavior change, we want to encourage people to use condoms, to be faithful with partners, to get regular checkups or testing at the hospital, anything to avoid the spread. And stuff. That's our behavior change workshop. The other thing is also development of IEC materials. This is information, education, communication materials. So this week, what we learn, what we've gathered from the public, we will be coming up with some posters, pamphlets, brochures, even a billboard if we can. We've got t-shirt designs, and we will be using that as our awareness promotional.
Although there have been many awareness campaigns on HIV, AIDS and STIs in the past, this week's session is more focused on learning the skills of producing materials focused on the need of a particular target group.
Okay, we'll just cover the STI HIV workshop now. What we produced this week, we will be going out to the general public on Thursday to get their feedback, their ideas, what we can do to improve on our materials. And then we will finalize our materials then and use it for our awareness programs, especially making use of the festival next week too, and also just to the general public. For me and for the other participants, the knowledge that they gain from this workshop, they can also use this to produce their own IEC materials, because there are a lot of projects on the island, not just HIV and STIs, and this will help them go out and produce their own materials to promote their projects, what they're working on. There's water, there's the power, there's climate change. Anything that they could learn here, they can actually go out and work and do it within their own workforces. And if they need help from us too, we're always willing to help.
And despite a poor turnout from young people, there will be an opportunity on Thursday to present materials produced during the workshop to a test base of young people to see whether they are applicable and effective. And that concludes our news bulletin for tonight. Do join us again for our next news bulletin on Thursday evening.